Hey, greetings and salutations. Today I'm going to be working on this turd again. Sorry, Ken. Hi, Rita. I'm going to address an issue that I've had since the day I bought this thing back in, when did I buy this damn thing? 2016? A long time ago. And it's a hard start. I'll show you. Instead of telling you, I'll just show you. And see if you don't recognize these symptoms. Shall we? Now, this thing's been sitting here since, well, it's been 24 hours. Wait for it. Yeah, see? Runs like crap. Then eventually it clears up. Once it gets to this point, it starts every time. Just made a liar out of me, you pig. Let's pop the hood and I'll show you how you can diagnose this issue. Come on, pop the hood. You can do it. Come on. Oh, there we go. I think I gotta lubricate something here. Yeah. But first, it's 220-ish, a little after 220. 222 and 40. Beep. I'm gonna come back in 10 minutes.
A few moments later.
Okay, it's roughly 10 minutes later. By the time I get done jaw jacking here, it'll be 15 minutes later. Right here is a test port that your mechanic will use to hook up a fuel pressure tester. This is where you would be able to plug in a test tool to be able to monitor the fuel pressure. You can see inside here there's a Schrader valve. This is a lot like the valve that's in your tires to hold the air in the tire. And this is the only thing that holds the fuel inside of here. Now, there's 45 to 55 PSI that's running in this. That's what your injectors need to be able to work properly, 45 to 55 PSI. And when you turn your vehicle off, there's a check valve that's way back into the fuel tank in the fuel pump assembly that keeps the fuel from bleeding back into the tank. Because this is higher than the fuel tank, if there's no check valve, gravity will, allow the fuel to run back to the fuel tank. And then when you go in to start it next time, you got to push fuel from the fuel tank all the way back up to the fuel rail. One way you can check that is you just simply depress this little Schrader valve. There's a little bit of fuel coming out. There's still a little bit of pressure in there, but in 10 minutes, that's bled off enough to where now there's an air pocket in here. Unfortunately, the only fix for this is to go back to the rear of the vehicle and drop the fuel tank. And for me, that means I need to pull the skid plate off, pull all those bolts out. I have a new fuel pump assembly. It's not new, it's 7 years old for crying out loud. I bought this a month after I bought the truck. But anyway, I'm dying to get into this, can't you tell? I mean, I've been putting it off for damn near 7 years. Step one in this whole thing is to open this. I forgot how. Oh, that's how. That's your fuse center. And then inside here, it'll tell you, inside the lid here, it'll tell you where the fuel pump solenoid is. That's this dog right here. And it didn't even break it. So pull the fuel pump relay out and then go start your vehicle. It'll die right away, but that's good. What you want to do is bleed all the pressure out of the fuel rail. You can also, if you don't want to do that, depress the Schrader valve, but understand that fuel's going to dribble out of here and it's going to spill all over the intake, and you want to throw a rag or some paper towel in there to catch the fuel. And once you've bled the pressure off the fuel rail, go ahead and take the SAD cable off the battery just to avoid any possibility of there being an explosive fire and you burn your rig down in your driveway. That would suck. That would be no good. Yep, just like I expected. No fuel pressure. Good. Now, take the SAD cable off. Most Jeep XJs will not have a skid plate on it, and you may have a tow package. The receiver hitch will be bolted here where I have the skid plate bolted. I don't think you have to remove that if you have the tow thingamajig on it. The receiver hitch, I don't think you have to remove that, but obviously I'm going to have to remove this skid plate. So unless you have a skid plate, this is unnecessary. You might want to skip ahead. But 3/4 inch socket. Okay, crank her up. Uh-oh, what happened? Oh no. My battery chooched? What's this supposed to mean? Oh man, I think my battery's boogered. That's no good. I got a much smaller 2.5 amp hour battery. Is this one charged? It's on 3. I'll be lucky to get through this. Great. I gotta use a ratchet. That's no fun. Okay, you got headphones on. Turn them down now, you've been warned. Come here, come here. These 2 bolts, nuts I should say, need to be backed out, and it looks like that's going to be longer than my socket is deep, so I'm going to have to do this with a wrench. Here's my fuel line. I know that because it says it right here. This is the connector for the fuel pump and the sender. This is probably to the charcoal canister, the EVAP system. Here on the side of the tank, the frickin' clamp is mounted with the bolt head up. It should have been either turned around so you face down. Like I say, they probably had the hose on when they put the frickin' thing through the frame here. It's stupid. I'm probably going to have to remove this so I can access the fill hole. This is why I didn't ever want to do this, because it's such a pain in the arse. First things first, I'll get all this stuff disconnected and work on getting this stuff loosened, at least to the point where I can get a socket on it. And then we'll see. Maybe I can gain a little extra room by dropping the tank on an angle where I can access this. Was dumb. And that's a factory clamp too, so you know it ain't gonna come off. I'm gonna probably have to cut both of these. Let's make sure I got the right one before I do that. I'm gonna pull this off too. It's just 2 10mm self tappers to hold this little thing on. Let me grab those.
Fuck yeah. Broke the goddamn Christmas tree. Awesome. There. That's just great. I hope this don't break. I'll be pissed if it does. I only got a little bit in my eyes. Well, that was a success. This looks like it might be a 15. Get some Croyle on that too. For what it's worth, this is the best penetrant known to man. And Croyle knows it's the best. That's why this stuff costs $20+ a can. So you don't need to use a lot. Use it very sparingly. That's the opposite of liberally. Just a little dab will do ya. That should be enough.
Plug this back in. Yeah, let's go turn the key on and see if we hear a fuel pump. That thing's noisy. Oh, I'm almost out of fuel. That's not good. That fuel pump's junk. Let me see how much fuel is leaking on the ground. It's fucking just hemorrhaging. Well, that was a complete waste of freaking time. I pulled this fuel tank down, I don't know, more than once. Where's the damn thing? It's hemorrhaging fuel out this bit here, around this here thing. I don't know. I'm not this thing anymore. It's been here for 6 years. It's got to go. It's going in the trash tomorrow. I'll let some of that gasoline evaporate out of it. Hopefully the house don't burn down tonight. But in the interim, I'll put the old fuel pump back in. I did take the new screen off this one. And that seemed to, I mean, this screen is, I mean, look at it. Look at it. It's terrible. So, I did put a new screen on it anyway. But I just test fired it and runs without hemorrhage. I mean, it was pouring fuel so bad that it wasn't even making it up to the fuel rail. It was starving for gasoline. So I think what I'm going to do tomorrow, since it's Christmas Day today, I think what I'm going to do tomorrow is run down to O'Reilly's or AutoZone, one of the two, and see if they have one in stock. If they don't, I'll go online and buy a good one, not a $30 one. Buy one with a Carter pump in it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
72 hours later.
All right, it's been a few days, but let's try something here real quick. Turns out it was just a little screen thing. This thing. Apparently it's pretty plugged. Oh yeah, it's freaking dickered. Holy. Let me cut this thing open. I'll show you what it looks like inside. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Wow. No, there's nothing in that. It's completely dickered. God. Probably should drop that thing and put a new fuel pump in it. It's sitting right there. It's an actual, I even think it's a, no, it's a Carter. Maybe I'll just keep it and do that in a month or two. But I need to use this thing tomorrow, so I'm going to button things up, put her back together, and use it.
72 hours later.
This is what I found with the new fuel pump. So I've been sitting here dissecting it. This goes in there like that. This goes in through here. Fuel pump hooks up to that little barb there. The fuel pump's inside that little extruded piece of metal in there. But I would imagine that this, looking at the inside, I don't know if I can get, see that inside there? I believe this is your fuel pickup and your return. So this is you know, as it's only sending fuel out to the fuel system, the fuel rail, through this, and whatever fuel it's not using, instead of going all the way to the engine and then back like a GM does, it just bypasses here. First thing I noticed is that there's a crack there. There's another one. Where is it? Oh, and there's a crack right there. And that sits outside the fuel tank. So that's where all that fuel was coming from when it was hemorrhaging. This is broke. I thought that the check valve was in here. Well, I don't think so anymore. Let me show you why. The fuel pump's down in there. See her down in there? Now if I pull this out, you notice that there's another sock here. Another filter sock. And way down on the bottom you can see that there's, I don't know if you can see it, but let me just describe the bottom of that. That the bottom of this, where the fuel pump sits, you notice that this is square, and there's a mating area where this fits down into it, and that little point there keeps that little, you see the orange dot there in the middle? Let me show you what that is. There's your check valve right there. And that's supposed to keep fuel from bleeding back out of the fuel system. So this fuel system operates at 45 psi. I'll test that in a minute. And although some of the pressure will probably bleed off, maybe 10 or 15 pounds, it should hold pressure in the fuel system. So that when you get in the car and turn the key, the ECM sends a signal to the fuel pump to run for about, I don't know, 1 or 2 seconds, just to repressurize the system so that it doesn't bleed off when you crank the car. Let's go pop the hood and see if there's still pressure in my fuel system from sitting overnight. Very little. But watch. Now this is sat overnight. I haven't started it yet this morning. No jump cuts. It's not the fuel pump. So what I think happened, when I pulled that old fuel pump assembly out and I dumped the fuel out of it, there may have been some trash or something lodged in that little piece of rubber, and it cleared itself. That's all I did. All I did was put a new screen in it. And I've got 250 miles on it since I replaced that. Since I fixed it, I think I got a couple hundred miles, 250 miles on it. So I'm just gonna return the new fuel pump that I bought, which is in this box right here. Oh, that's not that box, it's this box. It's in this box. There's the new fuel pump. Carter. Let's see if I can find a part number for you. P7504OM. There's your part number. At the time of this recording, that was $127. Let's check the fuel pressure and see what it's running at. What I have here is a liquid-filled gauge and a couple brass fittings. And I'm going to screw this onto the rail. Before I do that, I need to find my Schrader valve removal tool. Come over here to this thing here. This is the same tool you'd use to remove the Schrader valve out of a tire. Then I have a flare union here. This is a 1/4 inch flare. We'll screw that on. 1/4 inch flare to a 1/4 inch flare 1/8 inch NPT fitting, and then finally to the gauge. So let me get a couple wrenches, tighten this down, and we'll test it, see if it leaks. Tighten down. Tell me if it starts hemorrhaging fuel. Ugh. Not leaking. Well, let's see how fast the pressure bleeds off. Well, that's pretty fast. I'm gonna call that fixed. So that means I'm sending that thing back. I'll continue to mess with this and see if I can get this apart. If I can, I'll show you the insides of this. So I've read in forums that this is the fuel filter, the fuel pressure regulator, and so you can say I've destroyed this thing to get it apart. There's an oil ring that goes on here, and then I pried this plastic bit off here. Well, there's the pressure regulator, and there is a void in here that is capable of carrying some kind of filter media, I would suppose. Not that it would do any good, but that's all it is, a fuel pressure regulator. Fuel comes in here from the pump. It gets regulated 45 psi here, pressurizes the top where it exits through these gaps here, right? Yeah. Exits through here to the spout, to your fuel injection system. And then whatever doesn't get used gets dumped directly back into the reservoir where the fuel pump is at. Keeps the fuel pump submerged and keeps, I don't know how much that holds, maybe a half a gallon of fuel at all times in that little reservoir, so it doesn't matter if you're on a steep incline or not. You're never going to run out of gas until you run out of gas. So now I know. Now I get to throw it away. But not there. If I was a betting man, I would have bet the farm on that check valve was just dickered, and it may have been. But as soon as I tipped it over and dumped the fuel out, whatever was in there that kept the check valve from working, it was just that fuel sock. Check that first. I'll post links in the description to a new fuel pump assembly if you're in need of that. And I'll see if they just sell the little sock. They probably don't. They probably want you to buy the whole fuel pump assembly. But I know if your pump's bad, you can just buy a pump. So check the links in the description if you're in need of any of that stuff. And that's all I got today. It's fixed now. Now I get to send that back. So until next time, you have fun, stay safe, shoot straight, keep powder dry, have a splendid day. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. No, don't forget to click like, share, and all that stuff too. Appreciate you. Bye.